Hey everyone, it's Robert Contreras, and today is another day of e-commerce unlimited. And today we're going to be diving into sales channels. But before we really dive into the current landscape, let's go back into the past so we can see exactly how e-commerce has evolved, because this is really going to give us a good understanding of where it's going and what we need to do to succeed. Okay, so let's first start off in 1979. Aldrich connected a television set to a transaction processing computer with a telephone line and created what was then coined as teleshopping, meaning shopping at a distance. And if you fast forward, France launched Minitel. Now back in the day, Minitel was through telephone lines, and it connected telephone subscribers to millions and millions of other users. In fact, over 9 million Minitel terminals at one point connected 25 million users. It peaked around 1991, and then pretty much the internet took over, which killed it. And then if you keep fast forwarding into the early 90s, you now have SSL. And SSL is what encrypts data that's processed online. So that way it's secure, you can swipe your credit card with no problems. And it really first started coming about in 1994 with Netscape, which really helped push e-commerce forward. Now in 1995, Amazon ended up launching an online bookstore. Brick and mortar stores back in the day were limited to roughly 200,000 titles. And that may seem like a lot, but Amazon could pretty much have every single title because they weren't limited by the size of a store. In other words, anything you can imagine when it's related to books, Amazon carried. And now if you think about it, Amazon, they carry way more than just books, way more than apparel. Heck, they even sell things like food. Then with e-commerce, Amazon started offering reviews, and people thought this was crazy. In fact, why would people selling on Amazon want that, right? Well, it provided a better experience to users, which made Amazon more popular. And then companies who were selling products on Amazon eventually figured out, hey, well, if we create a better product, we'll have better reviews and we'll generate more sales. And in 2005, Amazon took it one step further and then announced Prime membership, which was free 2-day shipping for an annual fee. And eventually the Prime memberships did go up in cost, but it's still cheap. And nowadays you can get sometimes next day delivery free included in your Prime membership. Of course, then there's also eBay. It came out in 1995, and in 2005, then you had Etsy, which is a different version of eBay, but for handmade goods, which has done over $1 billion in global sales. And in 1998, PayPal opened up its services. PayPal really got popular through eBay because anyone who bought on eBay ended up using PayPal. And now PayPal, funny enough, is actually a bigger company than eBay. In 2001, though, Amazon changed the game by launching its first mobile commerce store. 77% of Americans own a smartphone. If you think about it, in 2018, during the holiday season, which is obviously one of the peak times, 40% of all e-commerce purchases were through smartphones. Nowadays, smartphones make up the majority of e-commerce transactions, meaning more people now are shopping through their smartphones than they are through their desktop computers. So what's going to happen next? That's really the question. And what do millennials want? Because that's the primary consumers. And what do people want? Well, trends continually change, and if you adapt, that's how you win. And before we go over the sales landscape, I want to first break down some of the history so you can see exactly how e-commerce has adopted over time. Trends are very, very important because if you ride the trends, you can ride those waves and catch a lot of sales. So what's working in e-commerce right now? That's the question. Well, if you're not paying attention to other businesses out there, products that are working, the marketing tactics, you're gonna be in that 80%, just like everyone else, where you have this e-commerce store and you're really not generating any sales. Most marketing tactics really don't work. Following what everyone else is doing is going to lead you to failure because most people fail when they create an online business. It's usually due to low sales or a lack of experience and tons of competition. So no matter what your business is, if you make enough sales, everything else pretty much takes care of itself. So let's look at the top retailers in the world so we can learn from them. Amazon, Walmart, Macy's are all examples of people who are generating a lot of sales online. Go look at the top players in your space and see what they're doing well. See, in e-commerce, you don't just have to sell products on your own website. You can actually take some of these other stores that are really popular, like Amazon or Walmart, and start selling products on these sites as well. With Amazon, for example, yes, they do take a percentage of the transaction, but at the end of the day, you could end up making a lot of money by just having your products on Amazon. Now, when you choose the right sales channels for your business, you can leverage the infrastructure and allow you to get more visibility and generate more revenue. There are a lot of different sales channels out there, obviously, and each one has their own pros and cons. And we're gonna cover most of them, but I want you to understand a few of them right now. So Amazon, of course, is the #1 site out there when it comes to e-commerce. According to research, 55% of Americans begin their product search with Amazon. It's easy to use. They have a huge multi-billion, trillion plus dollar market cap, and they're continually growing at a fast pace. Then there's eBay. It's a marketplace that connects buyers and sellers directly together. It's an auction-based platform, and you can have a buy it now option. There are no fees unless you sell more than 50 items per month. And again, it's an auction style, so things like vintage, rare, collectible items also do really, really well on eBay. And if you're going to do handmade goods, Etsy is the place to go. They charge a listing fee plus per transaction type of fee. They also have a multi-billion-dollar market cap. If you have technology, for example, you're selling computer parts, let's say, laptops, you can go to Newegg. It's a great channel for that. They have billions and billions of dollars of transactions, and it reaches more than 20 countries and more than 40 million customers. There is a standard free program on Newegg for sellers along with 2 paid options, and they both work pretty well. The paid options, of course, tend to work better than the free options, but you can check them out for yourself. So when you're leveraging sales channels out there, you gotta figure out what ones are right for you and what ones work best for your space. For example, Newegg works really well if you're selling technology, but if you're selling clothing, Newegg would be a terrible channel. So it's not just about picking popular sites. You gotta look to see where your customers are and what other competitors are selling, right? So if they're selling on that channel, and many of them are, chances are that's a good place, and if they have a lot of reviews, for example, that means there's a lot of customers to be had on those channels as well. But understanding that these channels obviously are all based upon positioning your brand. Do you want to be a handcrafted, unique product or a luxury vintage product? Or maybe you want to be an expensive premium brand. Because for vintage products, eBay does really well. Handcrafted products, I found that Etsy does really well. To give you an example, I love art. And every time I'm looking for a new piece of art to hang in my office or at home, I go to Etsy and I find a nice canvas to hang on my wall and I buy it. I find it at a great price on Etsy, and it's one of the only places where I can get it. If I look on Amazon, I know I wouldn't probably find it there. So you gotta look at all these channels and also figure out, hey, my product, is it right for that channel? But also, can I make good money on that channel? Because sometimes their listing fees may be too high based for your margin, okay? And you gotta take all those things into account. So when you're developing your e-commerce strategy, it's important to look at the things like your audience, where are they? The payment processing systems, does your audience prefer Apple Pay or PayPal or Google Wallet? And how do those payment processing channels interact with some of the platforms that are out there, okay? All these things will affect where you need to list your items. And don't forget to start with your own website. Your website is your own piece of real estate on the internet. Think of all the biggest stores online, all the biggest brands, they all have their own website, and so should you. And remember, if you launch your own website, you have to do your own marketing. So obviously you're gonna have to do that anyway though on these other websites. Sure, Amazon and Etsy already have visitors, but they also have a lot of sellers that you have to compete against, right? And so you have to do marketing on their platform to convince people to go to your product instead of someone else's. So at the very end, I want to leave you with this. I know we're just starting. There's a lot of channels out there. I get it. Within eCommerce Unlimited, I'll cover them all step by step so you don't have to worry. We're just getting started. And as we dive in each week, week 2, week 3, week 4, I'm gonna go into them in much more depth. I look forward to helping you grow your e-commerce traffic and your revenue.